you're a middle school aged boy, your mind is focused on a few things, including girls, food, and physical appearance. Muscle becomes very important also, but mostly just to get the girls. I was no different when I was 12 and 13, other than I was dependent on alcohol. On a positive note, though, I became very interested in physical fitness and muscle. I would read for hours about supplements and weightlifting. These magazines featured stories from some of the legends of bodybuilding, like Lou Ferrigno, the original Incredible Hulk, Frank Zane, Franco Columbu, and we've all heard of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Likewise, you would hear about local legends. There were several back then. I'm going to focus on one local legend. He was an extremely strong man with a deep, thunderous voice. He was a man you always heard about growing up and a man you paid attention to once you had him as a teacher and a coach. And his name was Darrell Danner. We have a local park with 3 ball diamonds, soccer fields, walking paths, and several tennis courts. And the name of the park is Danner Park. From this point forward, I will refer to Darrell Danner as Coach, because that's what he was and what he did with his life. And I will read this to you versus my normal seat of the pants approach, out of respect for Coach and a desire to make sure that there are certain points that I just don't miss. Coach Danner was a very, very sincere and selfless man who put on no show, no facades. And he was not out to impress anyone in any way other than how you viewed him from a character standpoint, integrity. He did care about his name and about doing right. Coach was here for you. He never felt like you were here to serve him or benefit him, or as an asset for him to win football games, or gain anything else from. Coach didn't try to use people to benefit or elevate himself or his status. Rather, his goal was to elevate people, to encourage them, to lift them up, to help them, to truly coach them about life, about all things, including football. His motto was, do right. And let me tell you, the very first day of school, he would look you in the eye and say, do right. And he would hold up a paddle and let you have a little fear and a little motivation for why you should. Coach Danner didn't just talk about doing right, he lived it. Even if it meant personal risk or loss, he was the real deal. As a teen, the trajectory of my life was headed toward destruction. I was on the wrong path, which would have led to me really just becoming a loser. At this very pivotal time, Coach Danner became the difference. I'm sure that seeing I needed some guidance, he would ask me and a friend of mine to come into his office each day at the end of PE, which he taught. Coach would talk to us and not at us. He didn't just feel the need to hear himself talk, but he listened and would never cut you off. And then he would respond. I never got the feeling that what he had to say was more important than what I had to say. He would discuss everyday life issues, and we always discussed how to make good decisions and to do right. He would always use the Bible as his gauge for his decisions. I found myself wanting to do the same. I quickly transitioned from listening to him because of who he was on the outside, a very big man, to hearing what he said because of who he was on the inside. It came out. He didn't just talk about it, he lived it. Coach Danner began to visit with us about biblical principles, and because of Coach, I started applying these principles and transforming my life. He told us we had tons of potential, but that we would never reach our full potential, but that we would never reach our full potential on our own, while living life the way that we were, our own way. He stressed how important it was to seek God's way and His will for our lives. Coach asked about 30 of his students to a revival at Calvary Baptist Church here in Chillicothe. And I, along with about 30 other guys, started a relationship with Jesus that night, and I began to walk a path less traveled. My life was forever changed. Because of Coach leading me to a relationship with God, I found peace and joy where there previously was none. And I stopped squandering my potential. He taught us to have some fight in us, some spirit, some drive, and to march to the beat of our own drum, God's drum, and not the loud pounding drum of this world or our peers. He taught us that it was okay to be different, in fact, even cool. Because of Coach Danner, I stopped conforming to the ways of this world and to the ways of my peers, and I began to transform. I was no longer hooked on alcohol. He taught us that in everything you reap what you sow, and the value of being self-disciplined and having a strong work ethic both on and off the football field. Because of Coach Danner, I began to have positive aspirations and to work toward achieving my goals. In fact, from my sophomore through my senior year, I worked for Coach, unloading households of furniture for the Daryl Danner auction service, which he did on nights and weekends around teaching physical education and coaching. Furthermore, my senior year, when I showed interest in business, Coach helped me to establish my first business, both financially and by sharing his vast knowledge and wisdom. So because of Coach, I started an antique store my senior year and entered into the business world. Coach taught us the value of good friends and a good wife who can help you make good decisions. He said that they would follow God's principles, they would be selfless, and make every effort to lift you up and not themselves, and certainly not drag you down. I spotted that girl. How rare they are to find. Because of Coach Danner, I became interested in that girl with a great reputation who fit these qualities. She was the perfect combination of pretty and cute, sweet and sassy. Turns out that I married her, and wow, what a great decision. Have you ever heard of stepping up? Well, I really stepped it up, thanks to Coach. Thanks, Coach. Coach taught us to be selfless by pouring ourselves into others in what was increasingly a self-consumed world. Because of Coach, I'm a better dad, a better Sunday school teacher, a better friend, a better coach, a better boss. I know in my heart that I have not done nearly as well as him, and I'm not just trying to be humble, but I have tried and done much better than I would have had it not been for Coach investing time in me during those pivotal years. The statements that I have made here today are absolutely not exaggerated in any way. Many other boys who were fortunate enough to have had Coach have similar stories. And even though I have had several other positive influences in my life, like my wife, my mom and dad, my mother-in-law and father-in-law, other teachers, friends, coaches, and Pastor Stan. The impact this one man had on my life, my offspring, and furthermore, kids who have been in my Sunday school right here for the past 20-some years, watching me never read from notes, has been unreal. And for that, I am eternally grateful.